What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining the channel. In this video, I'm comparing the Pixel 5a 5G with the Galaxy A32 5G. Let's go ahead and get started. The Pixel 5a 5G is Google's latest Pixel device, priced at $450. The Galaxy A32 5G is the cheapest 5G device from Samsung. Both of these are mid-range to lower-end budget price devices, delivering a lot of value. And you'll like both of these phones, except one of these has to be better than the other. Which one should I recommend? Which one should you get? Which one is superior? Let's go ahead and take a look, and I'll give you all the rundown of the specs and tell you what you need to know. Let's go ahead and get started. So first, let's talk about the main thing, starting off with the price. This is where the value and the budget start to creep in. And the Pixel 5a 5G at $450 is not exactly cheap, but it is half the price of a $1,000 flagship. And at $450, you're really not going to budge from that price on the Pixel 5a 5G. It's not available on prepaid, where you get a lot of discounts, and it's only available in the US and Japan. With that being said, there's no real discounts. If it were on prepaid, it would see a price of probably free or $50. So the price is pretty much staying at $450. Now, on the other hand, the Galaxy A32 5G, you can get this phone for less than 250 bucks. You could see it on prepaid for free if you bring your numbers. So prices are really good for the A32 5G. Both of these phones are 5G phones, so they're going to be blazingly fast when it comes to the speed in your area for data speeds, and it's only going to be growing the 5G coverage. So these phones are kind of future-proofed. But price-wise, these phones are definitely not flagship pricing, and it should have a lot of people's attention if they care about value and bang for your buck. But in the pricing department, the A32 5G simply wins because of the lower price. The Pixel 5a weighs in at 6.4 ounces, Galaxy A32 5G a little bit heftier at 7.2 ounces. Build quality, the Pixel 5a has an aluminum frame, aluminum back, so it has better build quality than the plastic frame, plastic back on the A32 5G. But in my humble opinion, it doesn't really matter that one has better build quality than the other, because I always slap an inexpensive practical TPU case to prevent the phone from getting scratched up and getting dinged and breaking. And I also put a tempered glass protector on the front, so I spend less than $10 in protecting my devices, so the build quality gets hidden in that rubber TPU frame. But in the end, it's, I like protecting my devices, so it's a tie in the build quality department after that. Next, the Pixel 5a has the eSIM. Not a lot of phones have that. It's where you could have two different phone numbers, two different data plans at the same time, or if you're traveling, you could easily activate service without a physical SIM. The A32 does not have that. It's a good feature to have if you're traveling a lot. But it's, for me, it's not a hit or miss, but it's very impressive, because the only phones that have that is the Pixels, the iPhones, and a few Samsungs. So that's something to think about right there. So an advantage on the Pixel 5a. Another advantage is that it has an IP67 dust and water resistance, up to 1 meter for 30 minutes, which is pretty good. That's something that's reserved usually for more expensive devices, like flagships. But in my opinion, in my use case, I don't really care too much for the feature. Not that I don't care about it, but I have no use for it. I rarely have my phones get damaged by water. I keep them pretty dry. I keep them away from the shower, keep them away from the dishes. I keep them away from the pool, the beach, all that stuff. I keep them used to a minimum. But if you're the type of outdoors person, or you really like swimming, or if you have kids and they, take it into near the water or something, that might be something you could think about. But that's a flagship feature in a mid-range price phone. So that's a bonus for the Pixel 5a, but you are paying $450 compared to free or $250 on the A32. Now moving on to the display, I'm not a display, preacher or whatever. I could rock 720 displays. I could rock 60 hertz screens, and this is what you get here. Both of these phones are 60 hertz. You have a 6.3 inch Pixel A display versus the 6.5 inch display on the A32. The resolution is a little bit bigger on the Pixel 5a at 1080p. The Galaxy A32 is 720p. But for me personally, I don't see much of a difference. I believe that both of these screens will be pleasing to the eye to most people. You have PPI of 415 on the Pixel, 270 PPI on the A32. On paper, it's a more of an advantage on the Pixel, but in reality, Samsung makes really good screens, and I don't really think most people will know the difference. Bonus on the Pixel 5a, having an always-on display. So to me, it's not a super important feature, but it's a nice little extra where you could interact with your phone and see the notifications and incoming message as they come in without actually touching the phone as it's sitting on a desk, for example. So on the display side, a little bit of an advantage on the Pixel 5a 5G, but I don't know, is that worth the extra $450? Maybe, maybe not. Next is the software, and you are going to see a big difference here. You got Android 11 on both of these devices, but the Pixel 5a is well known for coming from the Pixel line and having fast updates on day one and getting several updates for a couple of years and having a stock version of Android. The Galaxy A32 5G is obviously going to have Samsung UI on top, which is way different feel than stock Android. But good thing is that Samsung will keep this phone updated for a few years, but it won't be fast. That's one thing to keep in mind. But for the most part, all your regular apps, all your popular apps, pretty much all the apps are going to be available on both versions of Android. For the chipset, the Pixel 5a has a Snapdragon 765G processor. Galaxy A32 is rocking the Dimensity 720 5G processor. The Pixel 5a has a better processor than the Galaxy, but don't let that sway you too much, because I think 99% of people and their everyday use cases, all the apps that everyday people use on a daily basis, will run perfectly fine on both of these phones. I'm talking about movies and music and maps and messaging and social media and Bluetooth and hotspot and light gaming. Some things like Grand Theft Auto and Dead Trigger and Call of Duty. You're not going to be able to run super high-end, high graphic intensity games or do a lot of high video editing or very heavy media editing on either of these devices with those chipsets. But for everyday use and everyday use cases with regular people, you should have no problems. As for the storage, the Pixel 5a comes with 128 gigs. Galaxy A32 5G starts off at 64 gigs. So advantage on the Pixel 5a 5G, but you are paying way more for it than 64 gigs, which you could probably get away with. These are 5G phones, so you'll be streaming a lot of the stuff with not a lot of internal storage needed for your media. But the Galaxy A32 5G has a micro SD card slot versus the Pixel 5a that does not have it. So kind of a tie right there with the storage on these devices. Now for RAM, you got 6 gigs of RAM on the Pixel 5a. You got 4 gigs of RAM starting off on the A32 5G. But for most people won't notice a difference between these two amounts of RAM. But obviously the Pixel 5a at 6 gigs of RAM hits the sweet spot, especially with that processor and the type of apps you're going to be running in the background. So I believe that most people won't notice too much of a difference, but on the safe side, the Pixel 5a 5G has the right amount of RAM. Now for the cameras, the 5a has 2 shooters on the back, 12 megapixel main camera, 16 megapixel ultra wide. The A32 5G has 4 camera setup, 48 megapixel main, 8 megapixel ultra wide, 5 megapixel macro, 2 megapixel depth, and both of these phones shoot in 4K. Now I'm going to make this a little bit different, but I am going to say that in the daytime, both of these phones will perform perfectly good, taking pictures and taking video. But when it comes to night shots, I believe that the Samsung will suffer greatly. Samsung does make great cameras, but this is a lower end device, and it's not going to be your everyday shooter in everyday situations. The Pixel, on the other hand, the Pixels always have good cameras, good video, good pictures, and this is no different. This is the flagship camera system in a mid-range price tag. So unless you're okay just taking shots in the daytime, for the most part, the Pixel 5a will be your all-around good phone to pick out. It has a way better camera system than the A32 5G. For the selfie camera, the Pixel 5a has an 8 megapixel shooter versus the 13 megapixel shooter on the A32. They both shoot at 1080p. Both selfie cameras will be very nice. Both of these phones also have a bonus headphone jack, which is good for some people, but most people, if you're like me, don't really have a need for a headphone jack. But it's there if you want to hook up your headphones, hook up your mic, or hook it up to your car to listen to music. Both of these phones have Bluetooth 5.0, which will connect to your Bluetooth speaker, your wireless headphones, and your smartwatch. The Pixel 5a has NFC, while the A32, depending on your region, also has it, and that's mostly used for payment services and Google Pay and stuff like that. You got the USB Type-C port for charging, and for unlocking and security, they both have a fingerprint reader, but the Pixel 5a has it rear-mounted. The Samsung has it side-mounted. Both of these are reliable ways to unlock your device. And unlike the more expensive model phones that have in-display fingerprint readers, the rear-mounted ones are the ones that I prefer because they are reliable, and the in-display ones are just finicky to use and are not that good all the time. And now for the battery, the Pixel 5a finally made a big jump in the Pixel line by having a big time battery, and that was one of the biggest downfalls of the Pixel line, is having a small battery and having terrible battery life. But now they are in the big boy leagues, and you could use the phone for 2 days, while the A32 5G has a solid, huge 5,000 milliamp battery, which will last you 2 to 3 days as well. The Pixel 5a has 18 watt fast charging. A32 has 15 watt fast charging. So in the battery and in the charging department, both of these phones are pretty good. So what are my thoughts and opinions and conclusions after comparing all the specs of both of these phones? Well, the overall better phone in general is going to be the Pixel 5a 5G. There is pretty much no compromises when it comes to this phone. The price point unlocked is very good. It has a great camera system. It has the right amount of storage. It has a good build quality if that's important to you. It has the headphone jack. The camera system is amazing, and it finally has that big old battery. The processor is pretty much just where it needs to be. But is it the better value? Probably not, because the A32 5G can be had for free. For free, it's going to be $450 less, and even if you get it unlocked, you're still going to pay under $300 for it, and it still offers a lot of the most important things. It has a big old battery. If you're a fan of the Samsung UI, it's going to get several updates, and they're not going to be as fast as the Pixel, but it has a lot of features going for it. It has 4 cameras. It has the ultra wide shooter with 4K. It has the micro SD card slot, and it's available on prepaid. It's available pretty much everywhere, and it's just a pretty reliable device for everyday people. Yes, that's the more value-driven device. You get a lot more bang for your buck. But if you don't want to have any compromises, the Pixel 5a will be a flagship device. I believe it's the best Android phone out there, especially given the price tag of only $450. This phone is worth a lot more. It's worth like $1,000 because it could go head to head with the most expensive flagship phones and it probably still come out on top. So let me know in the comments below what you think is a better phone, which one would you rather get, and which one is the better value. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.